Mr. Mayor and Alderman, my name is Greg Saltz, homeowner, Ward 3. Last time I was here, I read the analysis of research conducted on the Manchester Mosque by Dave Gabbets, the former federal agent who specializes on counterintelligence on Islamic terrorism with 30 years' experience. Following my reading of that analysis, the union leader wrote a story that quoted the chief of police, some aldermen, and the imam. The chief called the agent a crackpot. 2 aldermen said the analysis was hatred, and 1 said the board will not stand for it. While Dave's credentials are impeccable, he didn't read the analysis to the board. I did. I hope I misunderstood the chief and the board for accusing me of hate speech. For me, this suddenly became something much bigger. This is now an attack on freedom of speech. President Obama told us, if you see something, say something. I saw this report. I had said something. At the time, I didn't know Rich Girard had already reported it. A couple of days later, I'm reading words in the paper like Islamophobia, bigotry, and hate speech. I am more disturbed by that than I am of the report. I find the comments no different than Ray Buckley calling Republicans in the state of New Hampshire white supremacists. In San Bernardino, 14 people were killed by extremists. One neighbor wanted to say something but chose not to because they didn't want to be called a racist. Those 14 people are dead because of political correctness and free speech suppression. Last week, I called Dave Gabbets. The first question I asked Dave was, did the chief call him? He said no. The chief gets paid $152,000 a year. I asked Dave about the algorithm used to determine the extremity of the society. He said it's a 200-point checklist developed by Dr. Tawfiq Hamid, a former jihadist from Al-Gamal al-Islamiyya in Egypt. I asked Dave specifically about the literature he discovered in the mosque. The material was from WAMI, Muslim Brotherhood, Abdul Maududi, and Ali al-Tamimi. Dave confirmed that authors were anti-Jewish, anti-American, and preached the penalty for sodomy was death. Last year, 50 gay people were murdered in Florida by a man reading similar hate literature. Will another Manchester judge dismiss this in our society as culturally incompetent? In 2007, the Manchester Islamic Society invited Imam Siraj Wahhaj here as the keynote speaker for a fundraiser. Siraj was an unindicted co-conspirator of the 1993 World Trade Center bomber and a personal friend of the blind sheikh. Mr. Gabbets told me he spent 2 weeks in Siraj's mosque and considers him to be the most dangerous imam in America. Wahhaj also preaches the punishment for homosexuality is death. This was the keynote speaker in Manchester that packed the Radisson and raised over $100,000.
30 seconds.
Not only am I concerned about the safety of Manchester's gay community, I'm also concerned about the Jewish community. Fatima Deek, now known as Salam Adeha, a Palestinian often quoted in the Union Leader, led a protest of a dozen people on Elm Street who were holding the black jihadist flag and chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine it will be free. This is a call for genocide against the Jews. This is the third red flag, and I'll close with this. Freedom of speech is the fundamental bedrock of our society. So if Imam Sharif Shabaka and his colleagues are peaceful and tolerant, then they will invite Dave Gabbets back to Manchester for a public debate to let the citizens of Manchester decide where the society stands.
3 minutes.
And these comments have been submitted verbatim to the Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.